Hello, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. In Australia here, it's really wonderful because it's spring, so we're looking at all the blossoms. I've already done a podcast on the kind truth, which is telling the truth in the kind way. I wanted to talk about the truth in terms of your spiritual and psychic development, because telling the truth is actually very important. Because if we don't stand in the truth, there's nothing really there, is it? And love and truth are connected. However, having said that, you need to be mindful of who you're telling the truth to and whether they're ready to hear the truth. Now, there's sort of a few scenarios. So you can just always speak your mind and be blunt and think that's okay. And to be quite honest, it isn't usually, because if the person's not in the right frame of mind or if they're upset, the truth is just going to bounce right off them and won't be received properly. You can also tell the truth and you feel like the door's open. And it's like a psychic door, because you can feel when people are ready to have you talk to them. And then you talk a lot about I, not you, because that won't go anywhere. Then there's times not to say the truth. There's times when people cannot handle it. And it might be the truth, and it might even be good for them, but they're not ready to hear it. And they're the times that you need to be quiet and wait for the opening. I always ask my guides to help me know when to say something, because my human just wants to say it, but not always is that a good idea, because if the person's not in the place ready to hear it, or they're going to block it, it's a lost opportunity, isn't it? Especially spiritually. One of the ways you can start speaking the truth is to start to speak to their higher self, to like imagine them in front of you. And you can either speak out loud or just speak from your mind to their mind. They'll get that telepathically, and you can tell them the truth. This is how I feel the truth is for me. This is how it's been for me. This is the situation I feel we've been in, and this is what the actual truth is from where I'm standing. Because there's this really cute saying that says, what you see all depends where you're standing. And that's very true, because if you're standing in one thing, you will see it a certain way and miss some parts. And if you're standing on the opposite side, you'll see it one way and also miss some parts. Spiritually, it's very important to be honest. It really is one of the most important things, to be an authentic person, to be a person who other people can trust. They need to be able to ask you the truth, but you have to learn how to deliver it and know when to deliver it. And that's what I wanted to talk about today. As humans, we always want to rush in there or avoid. We've got those two parts. It's either going to rush in there or we're going to completely avoid it. And sometimes the third option is to wait. I've actually asked my guides to tell me when to speak. And there have been times I've got off the phone or I've been with the person, had coffee, and I didn't say anything. And I was like, walk away thinking, nothing came out my mouth. But that's actually okay, because obviously right at that moment, it wasn't the right time to say something that was going to be quite big. Timing is so, so important, and also divine timing, because certain things can't be revealed until a certain time. And that's often got to do with another person's readiness or your readiness, and also energetically, if it's very messy around you and very messy around them, the truth's just going to get lost in the mess. Right now, it's very messy. You're probably noticing that. People are having lots of family problems. There's a lot of conflict. Obviously, there's the world conflict. There could be conflict at work. We're also conflicted because we're feeling like we can't feel the guides around, our spirits, or can't feel the angels. They are there. Mine are just flashing 11 and 22 at me all the time. So they're just trying to tell me, we are here, we are here, we are here. And you might have your little sign. So tap into your numbers if you get numbers, or the way they sign you. But keep talking to them. It is true that the truth will set you free. However, it's also true that the truth will open Pandora's box and all the stuff will come out. And there's usually a lot of emotion attached to it, and you'll have to deal with all those emotions from you and the other person or persons. People see things differently because of course, where they stand and also their own filter. However, somewhere in there, everyone does know what the truth is. Even if they are making out like a new story for you, they all know what the truth is, and deep in their soul, they know it. A lot of people will not take responsibility for what they've done, and you will never get an I'm sorry out of them. However, you might find that they are more kind to you, maybe they bring you more, maybe they gift you something or do something for you. That's their way of saying I'm sorry. And you need to recognise that not everyone's going to be able to admit to the truth. But you'll also find another thing, that if you hit the truth when you speak to someone, there can be silence. It's almost like you said it and it's like bouncing off the walls. Now, that does not mean it's not going in. That means they can't deal with it. And they're not going to respond right now because you've actually hit it exactly where it is. And that's very powerful. But as long as you understand that it's kind of hitting and then it's going in, but they're not going to react to you. They'll react later and mull and think about it, and then maybe change some behaviours or even talk about it, but they won't be able to do it in that instant. And that's just a normal human reaction. I really like the truth, but I also think that it can be dangerous and it can be harmful if people aren't really ready for it. I found in my readings, I would get things sometimes and I would ask my guides, are they ready to hear this? And I'd get no. So I tell them in a way that was more easy and not quite to the point, just a vague thing. So later on, if we can delve further, if the truth comes up, they'll remember, oh, you said that. I remember you told me that. So you're really telling them the truth in a way that sort of almost comforts them. For example, if you have a feeling, and you're quite psychic if you're listening to these podcasts, if you have a feeling that someone's dad's really sick and you have a bad vibe about him and you think he's going to die, you wouldn't tell that truth, even though you could be intuitively really right. You might like to temper that by saying, have you seen your dad much? And, you know, it'd be nice if you saw him a bit more. I think he really loves you. He's probably missing you. Why don't you go out and have coffee with him or something? Because, you know, we don't have our parents forever, do we? Or something just like vague like that. Well, we don't have people forever. We've got to make the most of it. And that way later, I've had people come back and say to me, you knew? And I said, yeah. But I didn't know when, and I'm not God, so, you know, I wasn't going to give you months of suffering or years of suffering. I just wanted to encourage you to spend more time with that person. So there's ways to deliver it. Because being intuitive is great, except having the information can be really a curse, like a burden. It's not always a great thing knowing stuff. I know stuff, and I've known stuff about certain people for a long time and had to be quiet because it's not for their greater good to be telling the truth about certain things, particularly things that they can't do anything about. It's different if you get some information and you can say to someone, oh, you know, have you had that checked, or had a look at that, or, you know, how's that going with this? The business, have you thought of another way of doing it? You're not actually saying the truth in the sense to scare them, but you're giving them like a warning, because they can change it. But if things are set and they can't change it, there's no point. We've all met those couples who we just know it's just like downwards, it's going to crash, you know, it's not going to work. But you just encourage them to stay together. And then when it starts falling apart, you talk about other ways of doing it, and also maybe not being together. But you don't tell them initially at the wedding when you're sitting at the table thinking, this is going to crash and burn in about 5 years. You wouldn't tell them then, because it's not going to help them, because there might be some lessons in it. And that's the other thing about the truth. Sometimes it's their lesson, sometimes it's our lesson. I wasn't told certain things that actually happened in my life, and people, because I'm psychic, were like, oh, well, you should have known, you know, like that, because I always want to do all that stuff besides asking what the cross lotto numbers are. And I realised that I was blocked from it because there was some learning for me and there were some lessons for me, and I needed to go through those lessons without knowing the outcome, because I was part of making what the outcome was. Tell the truth in a really loving way. Don't do it in the way that you're defending yourself. Just talk about it like it's the truth, like it's in the middle of your relationship. This is the truth as I saw it, and that's the truth how you saw it. And if you're trying to make amends, listen to what the other person says and see it from, try and stand in their shoes, as they say, and see the truth from their point of view. Because a lot of the times we don't communicate really well. We think we do, but we don't. and we can give people mixed messages, and or we can get it all wrong and twisted when it wasn't like that at all. And that's because of our stuff. So the truth can kind of get messed up by our personalities and our past and our damage and all the things that have happened to each of us. I still think, though, at the end of the day, the truth is really important. And you might have situations in your life, or have had them already, where people would not believe the truth and they wouldn't believe what you said about lots of different things, which can really irk you. However, I always think when they cross over and they look back and they see what you went through, or they see what that person did or this person did, they eventually see the truth. And that will give you some peace. Because I've had people who wouldn't believe things I told them, particularly in my first family, and their friends. However, I know once they crossed, they all went, "Oh my God, that was the truth." It's just that they couldn't at that stage. So eventually they get it. So have a careful week with the truth and think about it. And I found asking my guides really good. I just say to them, just when I'm supposed to say it, or if I'm supposed to say it, just nudge me and let it come out my mouth, and in a good way. And I found it kind of took the pressure off me as well. I just knew what to say and when to say it, and I could stand in the truth at the right time. And with some people, I didn't, as I said just a minute ago, I didn't get to have that they saw the truth, but most of the time I did. So I'm wishing you a good week, and I'm sending you lots of love and lots of light.